Hello, everyone. Thank you for visiting my channel, Educational Norm. I work as an educational consultant, which means that I have the opportunity to interact and visit with many teachers across Ohio and beyond. Those interactions have driven me to tell their stories and their ideas on education. The goal of Educational Norm is to provide an informational network that focuses on positive aspects of education, the people preparing students for the future of our world. Join us each week for a new interview, and please subscribe and share the channel with others that you think may enjoy the program. Thank you and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Today we have Bill Mayer, who has been in education for 24 years, and his journey started back in high school when he was able to shadow his wrestling coach in an elementary school setting. From that point forward, he knew he wanted to be in education. He knew education was his calling, and his work took him to South Carolina, Arizona, and now back in Ohio. He has a book that he just finished, Are You a Kid Connector Today? A book that shows his belief in building positive relationships with students and how that is effective for teachers. Welcome to the show, Bill. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you could make it. So I'm just going to start off right away with your high school shadowing, because I always like to get the journey of how you got where you are now. And you knew early on in your shadowing that this is what I want to do. So you must have some great influences from high school.
Yeah, so I had a great experience through elementary, middle school, and high school. Obviously, then in college as well. But my senior year, we got at Madison High School for our last month. We got to, if we chose, to go shadow somebody that we might want to get into that particular profession. And I had the opportunity to go shadow my wrestling coach, and he was my former teacher, Coach Gary Fortuna. So I shadowed him for a month, and I really enjoyed working in the education setting. It was fun. It was like recess, and so forth. But it wasn't just rolling out the ball. Like what was interesting about that, month is all the things that go behind the scenes, even in PE, the lesson planning, the communication, the documentation, all that kind of stuff. So that was very, very interesting. And then I had the opportunity, obviously, to have fun, work with young people. And then, for me, I wanted to coach as well. So,
So is that what took you to South Carolina? Did you have opportunities down there for college? What took you to South Carolina?
yeah, so I went to Heidelberg. I ended up choosing Heidelberg to go play baseball and wrestle there. I got into education, obviously, was my field, had an unbelievable student teaching experience with Mr. Baker out in Clyde, Ohio, which was a 30-minute drive from Heidelberg, Tiffin, Ohio. And then I was dating a girl, so we went down together down to South Carolina. The girls always bring you somewhere, right?
Exactly,
And
yes.
I had a great opportunity. I actually interviewed. Wasn't even graduated yet. I went to visit her over Christmas break. I set up a couple interviews just to see if I would want to go down there, and I ended up getting offered the job before I graduated. So, and then we went down to South Carolina, and the rest was history. So.
Wow, that's a rarity where you get hired even before you're done in education. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What were you hired to do down there?
I was a middle school English language arts teacher for the first year, even though they knew I wanted to end up doing math, working in math. But I did English and social studies at the sixth grade level. And then I was the varsity assistant wrestling coach and the varsity assistant baseball coach for that first year.
Okay. So how long were you in South Carolina then?
14 years in South
Oh,
Carolina.
wow.
I did 8 years as a teacher, 6 as an administrator, and then ended up getting kind of recruited to come out to Arizona with another Madison grad, Mike Sears. He graduated a few years before me. He was the principal at Paradise Honors, and he had seen, through social media, kind of the energy that I brought and all the, the success we had as, on my teams that I was working with, but also in the different buildings that we were having. A lot of culture and climate success, partnerships with businesses, etc. So he asked me if I wanted to come out and at least take a visit. So I went out there for spring break, visited his area, then went and visited another high school buddy in California for the full week. But I really, really enjoyed it. And then and then I decided going out there.
And then you came back home to Northeast Ohio after all these great golfing and warm weather areas. You
Yes.
come back to the snow belt of Ohio. So obviously working at your alma mater is probably pretty special, or was pretty
Yes.
special at the time, to come back and be part of the community again. What brought you back?
I'll be honest with you. The girl, the final girl, brought me back. An alumni, Beth Israeli, but Beth Mayer now. We were dating just before I decided to go to to Arizona. We had just started talking, so we did the long distance relationship for about a year. I came back a couple times. She flew out a couple times, which was difficult having a 3 hour time change and having that relationship going, but. Right at the end of my first school year at Paradise Honors, we had a record-setting year athletically. Everything was popping very well. Had no intention to come back to Madison. I came back and for a visit to visit her over the summer, and a job opened up, assistant principal position at the high school opened up. And then I got Whaley saying, hey, these jobs don't open up very often. If you want to make this thing work, with Beth. And then I was like, yes, but, one, it's Ohio, like you said. And two, we've only been dating a year. Do I really want to mess up something that was going so well in Arizona? And then, so I pretty much was going to say no to it. And then Coach Willis, one of my kid connectors, calls up and he said, I still remember it saying, like, Mayor, we never won a state title. This is how we need to win a state title here. We need to pass a levy. You can bring all this energy, da, 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 da. And, what was really cool is, like you said, working in your hometown, which is, I suggest any administrator or any teacher to go back to where your roots are, and maybe they'll understand why it's so important for me, or really anybody that is working in their own school district, to fight for fellow Blue Streaks, or fight for your classmates' kids, or fight with some of the kids that you walked those hallways or played on those athletic fields together in our great profession. It was more important. Every position, every spot I've been in, very, very important. But you talk about, we talk about calling and all that. I don't think it would have been any more important to me than when I was my stint in Madison. So long story short, Willis got me to come back, and we ran from there. But man, blessed to come back to your hometown. I think everybody should be able to do it at least once.
Yeah, and I know circumstances took you out to Painesville for a while, and now you're in the Euclid school districts, and you are at a STEM school. So tell me the difference between going to a public school setting like where you were at in Madison to a STEM school, which is more, I think, elementary middle, correct?
It's elementary. It's K-5. We have a little bit less than 500 kids. It is public. It's a GT, gifted and talented, has all the gifted and talented kids in the district, but then it's also a magnet. So they do have to kind of apply to get into our building. So it is public. It is Euclid schools, but the STEM is obviously unbelievable. All that state of the art, the technology, the building is phenomenal. But I'll keep saying it, and I know we'll eventually get to the term Kid Connector, but out of all my places, I was at Ocean Bay, unbelievable, top 3 school in South Carolina. I was at Paradise Honors, top 3 to 5 school in Arizona. This particular school, what we are doing, and before I even got here, but what they were doing as a 4.5-star school in this particular city and district is amazing. And it comes back to the relationships. It comes back to the high expectations and rigor. And it ultimately comes back, yes, to parent involvement, but it comes back to the adults in this building. And I've had unbelievable adults that I've been around. I've been in, 3 different states, all 3 levels, 4 or 5 different districts, and 6 different buildings. So many great people I've been around. But I'll tell you, in this particular, I can see why they're making hay in this particular building. And because it's the adults.
Well, you've alluded to it several times. Almost every time you've made a move, it's about connections that you've had. Now, with your whole idea of being a kid connector, I want to go that route because you mentioned that your technology there is top notch, but it's not the technology that people come for. It's the people that are there. People make the building. So talk to me about being a kid connector and where that term came from, and what your belief is in this kid connector for schools.
Yeah. So, back in our day, we've all had these 2 different types of kid connectors, and I'll talk about that later. But where the term came from is I was going up to go wakeboarding up in North Carolina. I was in Myrtle Beach. I was going up to wakeboard up in North Carolina. It was summer break, and I saw that there was a recruiting. Texas was recruiting teachers out of North Carolina because they didn't pay the greatest, trying to essentially steal some teachers to come out to Houston Independent School District. And so I said, all right, well, I'm going to go over there. And it was right next to where I was going to be going wakeboarding. And I'll at least go in there and throw my name in the hat, not as a teacher, obviously, just to say, hey, I'm an administrator, just seeing what you guys have to offer, whatever. So it was like speed dating. There was a huge gym, tons of teachers. They were throwing 20 and 25,000 more at these teachers to get them to relocate, all relocation expenses, etc. And I just went there simply to say, hey, I'm an administrator. I'm just trying to see what you guys have to offer, etc. And then I'm going wakeboarding, and they were all thought it was kind of funny. But so you just kind of like you fell in line and you got to the person that was going to interview you. And I've interviewed with Rob Gasparello. He was a principal in Houston Independent School District at one of the high schools, but he was originally from North Carolina. So that's why he went on it. They had all this HR, huge the Houston Independent School District is the third largest urban school district in the nation. So they had a ton of staff doing all these interviews, but he went along because he was a local to that area. So anyways, long story short, I tell him, my pitch essentially. I'm just trying to figure out, what you guys had to offer. I'm not a teacher, etc. And him and I clicked. He was an athlete. He was a coach back in his day. He had a motor like me. So he said, hey, this is for the teachers, but I'm going to give you a call in about a week, and I'm going to get our district to fly out. And so you can kind of take a look at our district, and then I want you to take a look at my school because I need an administrator, and then we need an administrator in about a year from now for the feeder school, the middle school coming to us. So anyways, long story short, a week later, they flew me out. I felt like a D1 athlete. I was a D3 athlete. We didn't get anything. And, I got wined and dined. I got to go out there. I went to Ruth Chris. I got to see Texas Stadium. It wasn't even open. He got it opened up for me because they had connections, and they were setting up for Barnum and Bailey Circus. I went to my first and only professional soccer game. I went and saw the Dynamos. I went wakeboarding at their wakeboard park. So, and then him and I actually went to his gym, and we went and played pickup basketball, like 2-on-2 with some of the local high school kids. But so that was all grand and wonderful. But every time we kept talking about school, and we walked around his building, and it was all about he needed kid connectors. He needed them as his secretaries, as his nurses, his custodial staff. He thought outside the box. His students were 85% Hispanic, 10% half African American, 5% white. And he thought outside the box. He created a nursery on their campus to get these mothers to come, drop off their baby, and then go get their education. And every time one of these kids went to college, he had those old school pennants that would have colleges. He had them all over the building, and they would sign it, that they were going to Tulane or they were going to Ohio State, Texas, whatever. But it's just the energy this guy brought to the table was tremendous. I was sold. I wanted to go, and I ended up not pulling the trigger that particular year. I said I'm so impulsive usually, and I said, my mom said, if you really want to go, you'll go in a year. Just give it 1 year, and then you'll go if you'd like. And I ended up getting recruited to go to Arizona that year with Mike Sears, who was from a. But was funny is I spent 20 to 30 minutes in an interview with this guy. I spent 2.5 days on a visit. Him and I stayed in contact. He went to our wedding 2 years later. So that was the third time I ever seen this guy. And I just ran with that term kid connector. So my whole chapter, I always give credit where credit's due. And my first chapter is all about him and, pretty much what I just told you and how I've ran with that term ever since.
So how does that look in a daily situation and also in your hiring and evaluating of teachers?
Yeah, I mean, the classroom environment is a huge part of the OTES evaluation, and we talk about, we want that family team environment where the kids feel safe to try and safe to learn and take chances and so forth. And one of the chapters in the book is the Walmart greeter. Well, we know Costco, Walmart. They have those people, the little ladies that are outside the door, and they're not really as much to check your ticket or your receipt is about to, put a smile on your face, say hi, say bye, etc. Well, it's the same thing as teachers. I want to see our teachers at the door recognizing if they got a new pair of shoes or a new haircut. Same thing with me. If I'm out at buses or I'm at car drop off, I'm interacting with the parents. I'm giving high fives to kids. The power of a high five, a hug, a hello is, as we know, is very, very powerful. So that's all about being a kid connector, establishing relationships, building that trust. And it can't be all about the X's and O's. There's gotta be more to, because kids don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. They'll run through a wall for you. We all have those 5, 6 people that we can always attribute our success to, right? Chances are they're either a family member or a mentor or a coach or a teacher. I think they say like 40 to 50% of your most influential person in your lives, when they did a survey, is obviously some type of family figure, grandma, grandpa. But there's 25 to 35% as a coach or a teacher. So we all have those people. And how cool is it to be not just one kid's, but because we affect how many kids over a 30-year period, but how many would bring up your name or my name or Willis's names or Fortuna's names, et cetera. So.
Well, I read somewhere that if you're a high school teacher, you only be with a kid for about 2% of their entire life, yet you have that lasting impact. So that's exactly what you're talking about with that kid connector is how do I relate to this person, not necessarily a student, but a person on a personal level without, overstepping those bounds or going too far, which is, I've seen people overstep, but I've seen people that are perfect at that role. So how do you know that when you're hiring that that person has that potential?
Well, I think, I want to hear some version of, especially with a new teacher, classroom management is usually one of the places they might struggle in right away, right? But I want to hear them somehow, some way say that classroom management has a lot to do with building a relationship, establishing that trust too. So, like I said, it cannot be all about dividing, in math, it can't all be about the X's and O's. I like hearing, I think, at least what I've seen, the best teachers don't teach math, science, social studies to students. They teach students math, science, social studies, or ELA, right? I don't want to be I'm disseminating biology to my students or algebra 2. No, I am teaching children biology and so forth.
Right,
It's
right.
got to come back to the kid first before the content. So.
That is big, and I think that it's become more obvious, but still, I think there are people that are just not sure how that looks and how that comes about on a daily basis. So I know you have some great things going on at your building right now. What are some examples of things that are going on at your building that not will balance the connections with kids and the curriculum that they're teaching?
Well, I mean, we talk about PBIS. That's a big thing in regards to, establishing, obviously the norms but we do a lot of check in and check out. We have a lot of tier 2 kids that have had trauma. And we make sure that we are checking in with them daily. They have to get a point system. They get rewards and so forth. But it's not about the rewards. It's about an extra adult setting them up for success, almost like that Walmart greeter, but a personalized Walmart greeter. How's it going? How was your day last night? What are you looking forward to today? All right, what's our goal for the day and so forth. So we've all had that, at some point in our lives, whether it's our moms, telling us to get to home, to home from practice on time, whatever. But some of these kids need it more than ever. They come to school for 2 meals a day, a roof over their head, but they need that love, attention, and discipline that sometimes they don't get it at home too. So.
Well, you alluded to how you handle kids, out in the parking lot and high-fiving. And as a leader of your building, how do you come across with your teachers to help build that connection, not only for the kids, but for the teachers as well? How do you do that as a leader?
I think you got to model it, right? I mean, just like anything, law of the picture, law of the mirror, in regards to what I would want them to do, I have to be able to be willing to do it as well. So it is, I keep saying I can be, as an assistant principal now, you're more of the discipline, right? I can be the hammer, but I also can be that kid connector. I can go in that room and, hold them accountable, give them that stare, but they are the ones that they're the ones that want to come to me and see me if they're struggling or they need a break from a particular teacher. They're the ones looking for, Mr. Mayor, are you going to go outside and play football with us? Or are you going to eat lunch with me? I don't know how many kids that want to come over and have lunch, every day. I can't do it every day because we have meetings during their particular lunchtime. But I'm also the one that's holding them accountable and having those tough talks and calling parents and so forth. So there's a balance, but once again, these kids know if you're all in or not.
Right.
If it's just another job, for 6.5, 7 hours a day, they can tell. They can tell it better than probably some of us are. So, and then also that comes back to having that kid connection and thinking that mindset of not just teaching content. It's all about culture and climate in your building too. If the teachers are happy, happy wife, happy life. So they're enjoying what they're doing. If they feel like they're being backed, from administration, if they think they're getting assistance with attendance when some of these kids are struggling to come in to the buildings on time or to school at all, if they're feeling like they're supported and they're being recognized for their efforts, because we give 3 awards out a month: a teacher of the month, a staff member of the month, and a kid connector of the month. So that could be support staff, or that could be teacher, and that is somebody that they've recognized, their peers have recognized them, or we've recognized them of going the extra mile. So we had one teacher just last month. She went out and on her own time. She reached out. I forget what the clothing company is, but essentially it's got all like 250 coats donated.
Oh, wow.
And some of our kids are obviously very, very needy that, in this type of weather and so forth. So we have that stuff happening all the time in every building across the nation. That's the whole child. We're gonna meet the kids where they're at, where their needs are, so that they can access their learning. So there's not as many distractions going on in their lives. So.
Well, and that's the piece I think some of the naysayers about understanding the whole child piece, they just want teacher there to teach content. It's so much more. And I hate to say this, but I think those people probably haven't spent a lot of time in a school lately.
Sure.
So I think that addressing the needs is by far the most important thing to start off with.
Well, a good analogy of that is, a child will burn down the village to feel its warmth, right? They're going to get their attention. If their needs are not met, we're going to eventually have to meet their needs. So it's, knowing the kid inside and out, knowing their background, knowing their history. The analogy also is the iceberg, right? We only see what's up on top. There is so much underneath that's going on with trauma-informed care and adverse childhood experiences, all the stuff that's going on. We get them for 6.5, 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, 36 weeks a year, and they get them for 3/4 of the other time, right?
Mhm.
So we gotta overcome some of their routines and some of their behaviors that they're being learned out on the streets or in at home, etc. So
Right.
our job's more important than ever. Like when I got first into this, and you got into it a little bit before me, but like it used to be, we would teach our subject. Yes, we love on them a little bit, but now we're guidance counselors, we're nurses, it seems like we're psychologists, and we're doing everything. And then, and we love it. We'll do it because they're our why, but it is getting tiring for some of these teachers. Thus, hopefully this book will help them out of remembering their why and getting them across that finish line, and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. So
Their job is very, very important.
it is. So getting back to your book, what was the driving force to make sure you wrote this book?
So funny, this is a kid that struggled reading, right? I was good at math and sports. That's it. I honestly believe, and it's in my book, I believe I truly learned how to read where I was somewhat confident, and I say somewhat, is in 10th grade. Mrs. Moskowitz, Colleen Moskowitz, my 10th grade math teacher. I would be the one, I couldn't decode anything. What I know now as an instructional leader, I mean, phonemic awareness and phonics and fluency, all that, nothing, comprehension. I would read something, and somebody that's so competitive, and it was like I read it, I can't even I don't remember anything, and I didn't want to go practice more. It's you practice, you do what you like and what you're good at, right? So I didn't read a lot at home, and then I'd be the one that we would do that old school popcorn reading. I'd figure out what paragraph I was on, and I would just reread it over and over, so I didn't look like a fool reading it out loud in front of everybody. I didn't hear anything else went on in the story. I was finding the movies for the Redfern Groves and Hatchet and Shiloh, and I was absolutely a terrible reader. And then now comes full circle. Somebody at age 45 that's been writing this thing for 7, 8 years. I met Rob in 2014, and I don't think I even thought about writing anything, but I started jotting down little things in my phone and the notes, here and there. And then I started thinking about people that I hadn't even been back to Madison yet, right? So I took that term. I was using it in the last year I was in South Carolina. Then I went to Arizona and was running with it, and then it blew up in Madison. If you say it blew up, people started using that term, which was cool, because they see the importance of it, and it doesn't even matter about our profession. Connections are so important in businesses in general, right? The most successful businesses have great relationships, whether, from the higher ups, and so you think about Costco, you think about Starbucks. It's that environment that they create with their customer, that connection. They know their names. They know their orders before they roll up in it, right? And that's all preached from top down, and that's the culture that they create in their business.
So if I'm a teacher and I go out and do you have a publishing company? Where are you at in the stages of development?
It's funny. So the second editor just finished. She was one of my baseball coaches' wives. She's an English teacher. She's bounced around in South Carolina and Georgia. But my first editor, my ghostwriter, she was my curriculum coach, Jessica Steele, out in Arizona. So she kind of finished it off. And then I had my second one, Nicole Schilt. She kind of just touched it up this weekend. So now I'm going to meet with my original ghostwriter, because she has a book published and so forth. And then she's going to help me. We got to format it, because it's done. It's 140 plus pages. We just got to format it, and then we're going to send it off to Amazon.
Awesome. So once it's out there and teachers can get it, what will they get when they buy the book? What are they going to be reading for practical, for theoretical? What are they going to get in that book?
I think they're going to get practical information in regards to trauma-informed care, whole child, some good information about the importance of PBIS, the importance of listening. I think we all talk too much, especially in our profession. We like to talk at kids, and so forth. And there's an art of listening. The word silent and listen are the same letters in, two different orders. Knowing knowing what adverse childhood experiences are, what those ones are, and how trauma can affect behaviors with these kids. I think it's going to be some good interviews with some important people like Jim Tressel. I interviewed Damon West, Gary Gilmore, who's the coach for the 2015 national championship Coastal Carolina University baseball team. He talks about loving your team, having that team family atmosphere. Todd Gogwell, he's the author of Lead for God's Sakes. Great story about a janitor that works in a high school and how he establishes relationships with all those students. He's that guy is that character, that fictional character is the ultimate kid connector. Joe Sanfilippo, I interviewed. He's a superintendent in Wisconsin. He does those 1-minute walks on Twitter. He's very famous for that. His book, he has a couple books, I believe, but his famous book is Lead from Where You Are. And he really emphasizes that moment or that interaction that they're going to talk about for the rest of their lives. We all have those. I have a ton of them, right? For all these sports, all the sports that I've been in, whether I'm the one having that interaction with one of my athletes, but whether it's for Tuner or Willis or Coach Palm and playing baseball, I can remember certain moments, good and bad, that I'll never forget because they had that much impact on my trajectory of where I am now. So, and then like I said, we joked about, I don't know if you had that book, Harry Wong's 10 Days of School. I joke like this could be like the Harry Wong 2.0 about, good introduction to the newbie teachers that are, kind of navigating the waters of being, a first year teacher. But then also some of these teachers that are trying to get across that finish line and remembering their why they got into it. Who are those people? Who are their kid connectors? And trying to remember it's not all about the X's and O's. So I just think that could benefit a lot of different people.
Well, just in listening and some of the stories that you've told and some of the interviews, this isn't just for teachers because I think you mentioned it in one part of your book where it's every adult in the building should be a kid connector.
Oh
And
yeah,
your janitor, your custodian story goes along with that.
yep.
Um, the importance of all those people together working to help raise those kids
Hmm.
is critical. So it is not just a teacher book, it's anybody that likes kids books. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah, I mean, and we there, I've been joked, but yeah, kid connector. But what about a community connector too? When you're bringing all these different people to pass a levy or whatever you're talking about, whether sports, sports in general, you see how some of these teams will shut down for a state championship. Look at Kirtland down the road, right? Every year, every other year, they're there, right? Sometimes sports that can be the ultimate connector too, whether it's the cheerleaders, the band, the parents in general, obviously the football players, and the alumni coming back to support the Hornets. So I think there's a lot of different aspects that you can take this premise of relationships and trust and being a good listener and building relationships that can benefit a lot of different people in a lot of different ways.
And I think that would be a great PD session for an opening day for the entire staff,
Yeah.
teachers, faculty, bus drivers, everybody.
Hmm.
Perfect. So just a few more questions. My big one is where do you see education in 5, 10 years? What do you see that is trending right now that you can see the positives that it's going to have a very good impact on teaching? Or, on the other extreme, what might be a negative impact that you see?
So I wrote this book to honor the good people that I've been around, whether it was my kid connectors, those 5 or 6, Jackie Berry, Cheryl Perlay, General, Willis Fortuna, Palm, all them, Chip Sorber, Peter Lynn, a lot of these guys, right?
Mhm.
But then I've also those were my kid connectors, right? And then I have all these other ones that have been around. And I think the reason I wanted to do this book was obviously talk about the importance of relationships, but to give credit where credit's due. I think I am the educator that I am is because I've learned from so many different people. My journey is not normal. Most people, they go to a certain area of this country and they kind of stay there, or they stay in a certain district and they stay there for most of their career. I've been privileged to bounce around and learn from so many different types of leaders to levels, like I said, elementary, middle school, and high school, different superintendents that I've learned under. Um, but I think somebody asked me, don't you think our profession's under attack a little bit, with private schools and vouchers? And I said, I guess so. And I said, but we got to remember all the good that is happening in these buildings. So somebody said, like, this is a good way of reminding any of the naysayers of what is going on in these buildings, because you've seen it in all 3 different states, all 3 levels, et cetera. And when I'm interviewing all these people, this isn't all my words of wisdom, 140 pages, whatever, but there's a lot of interviews on why they think building trust, or building that culture of care, or being a good listener, or knowing the kid inside and out because of the iceberg theory. So I think I interviewed 64 people. I was doing the count before this interview, and I think 8 of them are my old athletes or students, and then the other 55 or 56 are actual people that I've learned under or around. Because one, I'm not a finished product. I'm constantly learning.
Mhm.
I'm learning from this new building that I'm so impressed with. But there's so much good that is going on in this profession and all across the country. I think we need to remind some people about all the good that is happening, because we are creating all the other professions. And if we do that survey, and that includes us, we're obviously, like I said, 35-40% are, they're going to say they're family members, but the other percent is teacher or coach. So
Mhm.
we're doing something right, obviously.
Without a doubt. And I think that's a great message for all the teachers that are feeling overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is a tough profession, but it's one that a lot of people just will not give up because
Mm-hmm.
they feel they know the value. They know
Mm-hmm.
where the importance is. Um, One last question. Do you have current influences that you're either reading about or you're listening to on podcasts? Is there anybody out there in the education world that you are currently listening to that other people should probably tune into and see if they're their message gets across to them as well. And I know it's a bad time because you're actually in session, so I know there's not a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One that would just come to mind right off the bat is that Dr. Joe Sanfilippo out of Wisconsin. He does the 1 minute walks, but he's changed those. He walks to school. He lives 1 minute away from his school district, and he's doing a lot of PD now. I think he's kind of like winding out of the superintendent, but he's got a motor, and he just reminds, like, I think the last one I just saw is about, like, as leaders, you know, give grace. And obviously everybody's going through a tough time right now, not only the teachers, because we're trying to finalize the semester and so forth, but people are real people too. They're not just teachers. They got their own baggage, they got their own lives, they got their family members with diseases, or their kids are struggling with depression or whatever. So give grace. And that's, as leaders, giving us our remembering of understanding the iceberg with our own staff too. It's not just about the kids, it's about knowing everybody, and knowing, and just being that good listener, and being that shoulder to be able to be leaned on, etc. So I think that's one that kind of sticks out to mind right now. So
Well, that's a good one because that's somebody that I wasn't familiar with, but now I have to go look them up to
yeah,
to catch on.
yeah.
So I think that will be a nice one for all the audience people to check out as well. Is there anything else that's going on at your school that you'd like to promote before we log off here? What's going on there?
Like I said, obviously we're a STEM school, and we have Miss Fullerman. She's one of our top teachers. The kids get to obviously rotate just like a normal special, but they're doing a lot of hands-on learning. That, it's art meets, technology. We have a robotics teacher that does technology as well. So we have a lot of hands-on learning, that project-based learning. Our STEM teacher goes into the classrooms. Not only do the kids rotate through a special, but if they have a particular unit they're going on, and she has something that connects to that, so she's going into our CKLA units and trying to make some matches with the particular lessons that they're doing. So we're seeing a lot of good things like that. And if you go to our Facebook page, I'm posting all the pictures. I'm constantly in those rooms promoting all the good stuff that is going on in my building, and I've done that everywhere, because if we don't tell our story, somebody else will.
Right.
So.
And for those that are watching, that's Chardon Hills.
Chardon Hills STEM School, yep, in Euclid.
Chardon Hills STEM School in the Euclid School District here in Ohio. So if you want to follow them on the social media, that's where you'll look, and you'll see all the updates as soon as they happen. I know they're on there because you're top notch with that. I'm still old school. I still have a hard time staying up to date on the social media piece, but you're on the ball, Bill.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Also, when your book comes out, please let us know so I can advertise that as well to everybody. And again, that will be Are You a Kid Connector today? So be looking for that. Bill Mayer is the author. So thanks again. And please remember, for everybody watching, subscribe to the Educational Norm channel and contact me for information on my work or anything that Bill may be doing. And you can contact me at norm@normpotter.com or visit my website, structuredcreativityconsulting.com. So have a great week. And until next time, be kind, be professional, and find solutions. Thanks, Bill.